If you're here watching this, the monad has found you, and it means way more than you think. This isn't random, and it's not accidental. The monad doesn't tap just anyone. It reaches the ones who slipped out of the world's spell without even trying. The ones who started seeing through the noise long before they had the words for it. Right now, most people are trapped inside the loops of the world, but you've been living outside of it. The monad is the original spark of consciousness, the quiet intelligence behind everything you've ever felt but never fully understood. And when it reaches you, it has a reason to. You're being activated now, and this means that there are things you need to know, things that explain why you were found, what this shift means, and why your life hasn't felt random for a long time. The word infiltrator sounds intense, but spiritually, it's a title of honor. You're not breaking into the world, you're blending into it with light. You move quietly, but your presence shifts environments in ways most people will never notice consciously. You're part of a silent transformation. You live among the unaware, not because they're wrong, but because your energy stabilizes rooms, inspires clarity, and wakes people who are already close to remembering themselves. Infiltrators don't force awakening. They spark it by existing. This path isn't about superiority, it's about subtle impact. Real change starts from the inside, and you were placed exactly where the monad needed awareness to live in human form. And once you accept this, the next truth becomes obvious. Infiltrators all share the same unmistakable signs you've carried your entire life. Authentic attunement shows up in patterns, not labels. And if the monad has reached you, these signs will feel like your biography. The first and the most obvious indicator is cognitive separation. While everyone follows the crowd, you naturally step back and see the patterns behind their actions. You don't copy the world, you observe it. When you stop matching the world, you start understanding it. The second indicator is early spiritual depth. You thought about meaning, existence, and purpose long before anyone else your age even knew what those words meant. You weren't pretending to be wise, you just came in with a different baseline. And the third indication is the intuition that hits with quiet accuracy. You sense the truth of people and situations before anything happens. No theatrics, just inner certainty that proves itself over and over. Intuition is the echo of the self you were before this life. These three indicators are the signature of the infiltrator consciousness. The monad never reaches someone because they failed, fell behind, or wandered too far from who they were meant to be. It reaches someone because their inner compass is ready to be adjusted back toward its true direction. You haven't been drifting because you're lost. You've been drifting because your consciousness has been stretching, growing, outgrowing versions of yourself you no longer fit into. And when that happens, the monad steps in not to control you, but to realign you gently with the path you were always meant to walk. Sometimes, the most awake souls are the ones who find themselves slipping into repetition, not because they're asleep, but because the world around them pulls constantly. Responsibilities, routines, environments, and people can all subtly distort your inner direction until you don't even realize how far you've drifted from your core. The monad doesn't treat this as a crisis. It treats it as a sign that you're ready for refinement. Awareness doesn't collapse when you drift. It expands when you return. If you've been questioning your purpose, second-guessing your decisions, or feeling like you're circling the same inner themes again and again, this isn't a breakdown, it's a reset point. The monad's presence is a subtle but unmistakable pivot, a rerouting back into the reality that fits you, not the one you settled into. Think of it as a quiet hand on your shoulder, turning you ever so slightly toward the direction you've been sensing but avoiding, the direction that requires a newer version of you to fully step into. This isn't punishment. The monad doesn't operate through guilt, fear, or shame. It operates through clarity. When it arrives, it does so with the intention of pointing you toward a higher alignment, not judging you for the temporary detour it took to get here. Correction from the monad isn't a consequence, it's a calling. If you're feeling drawn into this message, it's because a part of your inner world is finally ready to shift, and the monad is simply illuminating the path you were already walking in the dark. And once this shift begins, another truth becomes unavoidable. The reason most people never feel this signal, even when it's right in front of them. The monad doesn't hide its signal from the world. The world is just loud enough to drown it out for most people. The majority of individuals are synchronized with the rhythms of survival, schedules, expectations, obligations, identities they inherited without questioning. When your entire awareness is anchored to the external world, it becomes nearly impossible to notice the deeper pulse underneath it. Not because they lack depth, but because their attention has never been trained to look inward long enough to recognize a higher frequency moving through them. For many, life becomes a constant loop of reacting to responsibilities, to emotions, to relationships, to pressures that have nothing to do with the true self. In that loop, subtle signals feel irrelevant, and internal shifts feel like background noise. They may feel small moments of intuition, strange coincidences, or glimpses of something deeper, but without space to reflect, those moments dissolve into the flow of daily life. They don't identify the signal because they've never paused long enough to differentiate it from their thoughts. But here's the truth most people never consider. Not noticing the signal doesn't mean someone is spiritually asleep. There are people with extraordinary depth who simply haven't learned to recognize what's speaking to them. They feel the nudge, but attribute it to chance. They sense the pull, but label it imagination. They hear the whisper, but assume it's their mind wandering. The monad doesn't choose the loudest mind, it chooses the one willing to listen. The reason you felt the signal isn't because you're better, it's because your awareness has reached a stage where silence speaks louder than noise. You've become sensitive to the subtle shifts, the internal movements, the quiet realignments that most people overlook. You don't just think, you observe your thinking. You don't just react, you question the reaction. You don't just exist, you notice the layers beneath existence. That level of inner attention creates the opening the monad needs. And now that you've recognized the signal, the monad can show you something deeper. Not just why you were reached, but what your role inside this world truly looks like when the activation fully unfolds. When you look back at your life, there's a pattern you can't ignore. The friction, the instability, the phases where it felt like nothing flowed easily for you the way it seemed to for others. And for a long time, you may have interpreted those experiences as signs that something was wrong with you, or that you were somehow falling behind. But what you went through wasn't punishment, karma, or cosmic correction. It was exposure. Exposure to the density of the world you were meant to infiltrate. Most people move through life seamlessly because they match the system they're in. They're synchronized with its expectations, its structures, its narratives. But you weren't built to blend in that way. You were built to remain conscious inside a world that operates unconsciously, and that type of awareness naturally bumps against environments that are misaligned with your inner truth. That friction was never a sign of failure. It was simply the difference between your frequency and the frequency of the spaces you were walking through. Every place you felt out of place, every relationship where you couldn't shrink yourself enough to fit, every period of instability that pushed you out of complacency, none of these were random. They were signals that the life around you wasn't a match for who you truly were. Friction isn't the universe blocking you. It's the universe redirecting you. While others could tolerate patterns that drained them, you couldn't. While others fused with environments that dulled them, something in you resisted. That resistance was your higher awareness, refusing to collapse into the density you were sent here to observe. You were never meant to adapt perfectly to the world. You were meant to navigate it with a different level of clarity. And the isolation you experienced at certain points, that wasn't abandonment. It was recalibration. When the world around you became too noisy or too heavy, separation became necessary so your inner signal could rise above the distortion. Isolation was where your alignment strengthened, and instability was where your discernment sharpened. The reason it felt like you lived a life of disruption is because infiltrators aren't allowed to fall asleep inside the systems they're meant to understand. The monad kept you awake by ensuring you never fully merged with the illusions around you. It pushed you through experiences that shaped sensitivity into wisdom, resilience into clarity, and hardship into recognition. And now that you've survived the density, you can finally understand the deeper truth. Not every soul experiences this level of friction. Only the ones who weren't meant to fully integrate into the system to begin with. There are two types of souls moving through this reality: those who integrate completely into the system, and those who remain attuned to something beyond it. Understanding the difference is crucial to understanding your own path. Integrated souls are not lesser or asleep. They simply resonate strongly with the physical world. Their consciousness blends naturally with the structures of society, the identities, the roles, the ambitions, the expectations. They find comfort in fitting into frameworks, and their growth comes from refining their human experience. And because of that, they rarely question the deeper architecture behind it. Their journey is inward, but their awareness stays within human context. Attuned souls are different. They live inside the system, but they never fully become part of it. There's always a part of their consciousness observing, analyzing, sensing the subtleties behind everything unfolding around them. They feel the emotional temperature of a room before they hear a word. They sense when a path is misaligned before logic catches up. They know when something feels true even if they can't explain it. Attuned souls navigate the world while remembering they are not defined by it. This partial resonance with source-level awareness creates a very distinct experience. Attuned souls often feel older than their age, deeper than their environment, and slightly out of sync with the mainstream current of society. They're not detached, they're simply operating from an inner reference point most people don't have access to. Their choices reflect clarity rather than conditioning. Their instincts come from intuition rather than imitation. Integrated souls build structure. Attuned souls create meaning. Integrated souls move through life based on what they were taught. Attuned souls move based on what they recognize. Integrated souls fuse with the story. Attuned souls question the author. And being attuned doesn't make you detached from humanity. It makes you more connected to its potential. You're not outside the world looking down on it. You're walking beside it with a perspective that sees what it can become, not just what it currently is. This difference isn't a hierarchy, it's a function. It explains why you always felt like your consciousness was tuned to a different frequency, why you couldn't commit wholeheartedly to identities that others embraced, why your intuition often guided you away from paths that seemed logical on the surface. Your alignment with the monad means you're an attuned soul, someone designed to remain aware inside a world that teaches people to forget. And that awareness positions you for the next revelation the monad has been preparing you for. The real purpose behind your inner separation and outer sensitivity. One thing almost every infiltrator eventually realizes is that their life contains moments that shouldn't have worked out, but did. Situations that should have ended badly, but somehow shifted. Paths that should have closed, yet opened at the last second. Most people call this luck, but for an attuned soul, those moments are signs of something far more intentional operating beneath the surface. When you move in alignment with the monad, your path doesn't become perfect. It becomes protected, not in a dramatic or supernatural way, but in the form of timing, redirection, intuition, and invisible guardrails that keep you from collapsing into environments that would suffocate your awareness. You've likely experienced moments when things fell apart just in time, or when you left a situation moments before it revealed the truth behind it. You weren't being saved from danger. You were being steered away from versions of yourself that no longer matched who you were becoming. This type of protection isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself, and it doesn't make your life frictionless. Instead, it creates conditions where even the disruptions serve you. When the monad protects you, the world rearranges itself before you even understand why. You may notice that people who weren't meant for your journey quietly drift away, or opportunities you were never supposed to take suddenly lose their appeal. What looks like coincidence is actually precision. Many infiltrators report strange near misses, situations where one small shift in timing would have changed everything, yet the timing always favored them. They move out of a job right before the environment becomes toxic. They avoid a plan that later turns out disastrous. They meet the right person at the exact moment it matters. They cross paths with knowledge they weren't even looking for. These aren't random events. They are the monad's way of shaping your trajectory so you never fully collapse into a reality that wasn't built for you. You are protected not because you're fragile, but because your awareness is needed. You carry a consciousness the world quietly recalibrates around. That guidance has always been with you, long before you knew what to call it, and now that you're becoming aware of it, you'll see it everywhere. One of the strangest experiences for attuned souls is realizing that their presence alone can shift people, sometimes in ways that don't make immediate sense. You've probably been in situations where someone reacts defensively to something you didn't even say, or they become unusually nervous, curious, or even inspired just by being around you. This isn't because you're intense or intimidating, it's because your awareness activates dormant parts of people they haven't learned to face yet. Awakening energy acts like a mirror. When you stand in your own clarity, even quietly, it highlights internal contradictions in others. Places where they're not honest with themselves, places they've neglected, emotions they've bypassed, or truths they've never acknowledged. You don't trigger their chaos, you trigger their clarity. And clarity can be uncomfortable for those who aren't ready to see themselves without distortion. Sometimes you'll notice people become defensive or dismissive without understanding why. They're not reacting to you, they're reacting to the part of themselves that wakes up in your presence. Others may feel a sudden admiration, like they sense something in you they've been missing within themselves. Some will project confusion, curiosity, or even fascination because your energy feels familiar in a way their mind can't place. This dynamic isn't negative. It's a natural function of attuned consciousness. You're not here to push people or correct them. You simply bring a depth that disrupts the autopilot many live on. For some, this is unsettling. For others, it's inspiring. But for almost everyone, it's unforgettable. People remember you for reasons they can't articulate because they're responding to the shift you activate, not the words you speak. This is part of what makes infiltrators so important. You don't wake people up by lecturing them or leading them. You wake them up by existing authentically in a world that trains people to hide from themselves. Your presence activates recognition in others that they weren't consciously searching for. And even if they resist it, the impact remains. You're not triggering people because there's something wrong with you. You're triggering people because there's something awakening in them. The biggest misunderstanding attuned souls carry is the belief that feeling deeply is a flaw. For most of your life, you may have seen your emotional sensitivity, your perceptiveness, or your intensity as something that made you too much for people or too reactive for the world. But what the monad has been trying to show you all along is that your sensitivity is not a malfunction. It's the operating channel through which higher awareness moves. When you navigate reality with heightened sensitivity, you're not overreacting, you're picking up what others miss. You sense shifts in people before they express them. You recognize when something feels off long before the evidence appears. You feel truth even when it's inconvenient, and you feel misalignment before it fully forms. This isn't paranoia or weakness, it's attunement. Sensitivity is the ability to perceive what reality tries to hide. Most people require physical proof, words, or clear signals before they accept that something is wrong or something is right. But infiltrators operate differently. Your inner system notices patterns, intentions, emotional undercurrents, and energetic inconsistencies with almost painful clarity. While others move based on surface-level cues, you move based on a deeper resonance that comes from the monad, using your awareness to read the environment. Your sensitivity was never meant to be numbed. It was meant to guide you. It was designed to be the compass that keeps you from merging with the wrong people, the wrong paths, and the wrong timelines. It protects you just as much as it reveals to you. The reason it feels overwhelming at times is because you are interacting with layers of reality most people don't even realize exist. And the more you honor this sensitivity instead of suppressing it, the more clearly the monad can move through you. You'll start to recognize that your emotional depth isn't emotional chaos, it's calibration. Your intuition isn't random, it's refined. Understanding this shifts everything. What once felt like a burden starts feeling like a gift because you finally see that your sensitivity is the very thing that keeps you on the trajectory designed for you. It's your radar, your guidance, your alignment mechanism. And now that you know this, you're ready to understand the larger truth. The world is shifting because of people exactly like you. It's tempting to believe that global transformation only happens through extraordinary figures, historical revolutions, or large-scale collective movements. But in truth, every major shift in human consciousness has always started with individuals who awakened quietly, not with noise, not with fanfare, but with an internal shift so profound that it radiated into the world around them without effort. You are one of those individuals, and whether you realize it yet or not, your awareness is part of the foundation of a new paradigm forming beneath the surface of everyday life. Your presence creates change long before your words do. People notice something different about you, even when they can't articulate it. They become more reflective, more honest, more aware around you. They question beliefs they never questioned before. They feel safer expressing things they normally suppress. You bring clarity into spaces that are muddled, and you bring a sense of coherence into environments that feel fractured. This is because you're not just interacting with the world, you're subtly reorganizing it through the way you perceive it. A single awakened mind shifts the frequency of everyone it encounters. And the most powerful part of this is that you don't need to do anything dramatic. You don't need to convert anyone. You don't need to preach, prove, or persuade. Infiltrators are not here to force transformation, they're here to embody it. Your alignment becomes the reference point that others unconsciously calibrate to. Your grounded presence becomes the contrast that exposes what is inauthentic. Your intuition becomes a ripple that encourages others to trust their own inner signals. Without trying, you make people more aware of themselves, and that alone changes the collective trajectory. When you choose inner clarity, you challenge the illusion that keeps people asleep. When you reject the narratives that don't align with your truth, you dissolve their influence on the collective. When you follow your intuition instead of fear, you normalize a new way of navigating life. The world is shifting because people like you show that another way of being is possible, not through grand gestures, but through consistent authenticity. Awakening spreads not through noise, but through resonance. Your journey, your healing, your insights, your growth, they don't end with you. They radiate outward into your relationships, your choices, your presence, your silence, your energy. The monad doesn't choose random people to carry this level of attunement. It chooses those who can influence reality not through domination, but through coherence. You anchor a frequency that the world quietly adjusts to without even realizing it. So when you think your role is small, understand this. The collective unconscious is shifting because individuals like you refuse to fall back asleep. The illusion weakens each time someone chooses awareness over automatic behavior. The grid of human consciousness reorganizes itself every time someone like you embodies truth instead of imitation. You're not here accidentally. You're not here as a passive observer. You are part of the mechanism that is actively shaping what humanity becomes next. Your existence is not symbolic, it is catalytic. And the world you move through is already transforming because you are in it. And still, much of your influence will remain unseen. And that's exactly how it's meant to be. The monad doesn't move through spectacle. It works through stillness, through presence. You'll shift energy without trying. You'll speak softly and leave people questioning their entire framework. That's not charisma. That's frequency. That's spiritual gravity. What begins in you doesn't end in you. Someone you affect will go on to affect someone else, and the chain continues. The monad thinks in timelines, not moments. What feels like a personal shift is part of a much larger blueprint. You're not just healing, you're opening hidden doors in the field of reality itself. So trust that pull you feel, the urge to go deeper, the sense that you're being watched over. If you're still watching, I'd like to thank you for your attention. If you enjoyed the content and want to see more, please consider clicking the subscribe button. Your support is very appreciated. Feel free to share your experiences or thoughts in the comments below.